Daily Buzz News. Professor Fulufhelo Netswera of Durban University of Technology argues that South Africa's present challenges, including poor education, high unemployment, and decaying cities, should not be attributed solely to apartheid. He stresses that while apartheid left deep scars, many of today's problems stem from governance failures under the current administration.
But more importantly, because we care. We don't want to migrate like other citizens who choose to run away and go and live in other countries where things are running smoothly. But there are so many telltales, if you look around, of the state of collapse of our country at both national and local government. It is very visible. And I can really pinpoint areas where we are failing dismally. We are nearing a state where we have no country left, really. We have got very little left. We inspire no confidence at all. And I hope when they do sit, they will take concrete actions. They failed to take concrete actions over the last 30 years. And hopefully there will be a turnaround. If not, well, we can only wish that they will get out of the way and we get people who are able, willing, and ready to run the country perfectly.
Prof, I mean, you mentioned that many of these leaders continue to what you frame as talk in revolutionary tongues, and they blame apartheid for the current issues. How fair is it for us not to refer to the great impact of apartheid in what we are seeing in some of the structural things that apartheid has developed and left within our country? Where do we start drawing the line, and how do you think this narrative hampers progress, and what alternative narrative do you believe would foster a genuine development going forward?
Perhaps the most important question to ask is when you emerge out of a state of apartheid, how many years do you give yourself to correct the wrongs? Do you go on for the next 100 years blaming apartheid for everything that is happening? Can we attribute the current unemployment rates to the state of apartheid? Can we attribute the poor education that we dish to our kids? That performance of our kids at primary school comparative to other countries is one of the West. Can we attribute that to apartheid? Can we attribute to apartheid the dismal state of our cities? I don't think we should. And I think had we taken things forward, giving ourselves tangible targets to improve the state of affairs since 1994, we would be by now very, very far. And unfortunately, we are not there. So, as I said, I think apartheid should not be in our DNA. We should read about it in the books of history, but we should not perpetuate the narrative that everything should be attributable to apartheid.
Can you pinpoint exactly where you believe we went wrong as a country for us to be experiencing the current deterioration?
I would want to give you at least two factors. One is meritocracy. I think the ANC abandoned the interest to appoint the most capable people in its body politic. So if you analyze all those people who are sitting at the NEC there, it's mainly people who can sing and dance and talk rhetoric than people who can deliver. So there are no credible people who are running our institutions and who are running the body politic of this country. Majority of them don't even know what they're doing, why they are there. Number two, besides meritocracy, I think there is a question of corruption. Majority of them have forgotten that they are there to serve and not to be served. So the first thing they do when the president appoints them to become ministers, they think about the car that they must buy. Should I get a Mercedes-Benz or BMW for myself and for the entourage, the blue light as we call them? Those are their priorities. They are not thinking about what impact can I make significantly to change the lives of South Africans. And that is where they're getting it wrong. I just want to pinpoint those 2 points, but there are many, many more who tend to churn out. They think we, society, are corrupting them. They should lead. They should take action. Take, for argument's sake, if President Cyril Ramaphosa was to take one of his senior ministers, 1 or 2, and this is what the Chinese do, by the way, 1 or 2, and take them to prison. And then you find a senior minister of parliament is arrested and jailed. I can tell you with confidence that the junior officials in the municipality would think about corruption and run away. They would never perpetuate the state of corruption. But now they know that they can get away with corruption because everybody is corrupt anyway. So I think we need to set example. But government must lead. Now and again, I think at the senior level in government, the president and parliament itself must sacrifice 1 or 2 of its senior members to show direction.
I think one other thing that stood out for me in your piece, Prof, is where you mentioned that those who lived in the homeland system now believe that those crony little states given life by apartheid performed far better than your municipalities today. And you go on to even speak about how they've destroyed the works and the work ethic that was inherited from Lucas Mangope, Patrick Pepu, as well as Chikedi Sibi. And really, especially if you look at the Northwest and what Lucas Mangope had created in terms of infrastructure and some of those economic nodes over time, what's your take in terms of how that particular province has deteriorated over the years?
And I think the counter-narrative you will get is that once you start talking in those terms, you are glorifying apartheid and the Bantustan system. We are not doing that. To the contrary, we are saying you should have shown that you can perform much better than the apartheid system. And when you start talking to individuals who indeed lived during those days under those small states, majority by far will tell you that the roads were better. We had water. There was no unemployment. There was no dependency. They didn't even receive grants, but they lived well and they were somewhat self-reliant to a large degree. Today, everybody is sitting down and is looking to government to give them tenders, to give them social grants. People cannot even go and plant maize to feed themselves because they are looking to government. I think we have gotten something very, very wrong. But when you go to Mahikeng, when you go to Bizana, when you go to Thohoyandou, you can see that these small towns, by far, have been left to dereliction. Nobody who wants to invest would look to go and put their money in those small towns because they know, for argument's sake, that Clover, the dairy company, left Northwest in Lichtenberg because they say, well, you don't give us water, you have got no roads, we can't transport our product, and they ran away. And that is one simple example, but there are many more similar to those. There's so little progress made. In actual fact, we have regressed. I think if you go and look at all indicators, and there are many indicators of development, you can look at them. They are out there for everybody to see. Whether you are looking at inequality, which is the highest in the world, whether you are looking at unemployment, youth unemployment, which is 60% plus, and it's the highest in the world. Whether you are looking at crime and criminality, South Africa's towns are classified as a criminal capital of the world. This is where murder and robbery happens. So all indicators depict a state of gloom. But I'm saying yes, going forward, provided we take concrete actions and we are serious about it, we can turn the tide. But we cannot turn the tide, as Judge Raymond Zondo puts it, after putting together a commission, spend R1 billion, you go and ask me to swear in people that have been pointed in the commission as criminals, and you say go and swear them in and make them members of parliament. That is not turning the corner. That is perpetuating the status quo and even making things worse. Confident, given the current leadership, that we will make change. Whenever ANC sits, they talk about positive change, whether they're talking about lifestyle audits, they repeat themselves over and over again. Just this past week on the 8th, President Ramaphosa wrote from his desk, he regularly writes from his desk, that corruption has become a pandemic and we must pin it, nip it on the bud, so to say. But this is what the ANC does. They speak the rhetoric, but they don't walk the talk. So ANC talks against corruption all the time. There is no lack of speeches against corruption from the ANC, but they don't act against it. So what I'm saying is that I'm not confident that the ANC is able to act against corruption. Because many among them are very corrupt. But also going forward, because the ANC is failing, I think the baton has to be passed to individuals who are able to do the work. Whether they will emerge from a revamped ANC or they will emerge from other parties, but I think we need to prioritize South Africa. There are very practical examples of what we can do to make South Africa work. South Africa has got immense potential, both in terms of skills, in terms of resources, whether we're talking mineral and land. South Africa can become a first world country indeed.
Thanks for watching.